In this video, I'm going to make the hand, and as you can see, I adjusted my reference image so that it's a lot easier to model from. This positioning was not a good idea for my hand. It's going to be too hard to follow that model. So it's a lot easier if you're just following the grid for straight lines. So I'm going to do that for the fingers. So the first thing to do to make the hand is start with a polygon cube. So I'm going to go to create polygon primitives cube and go to the front view. I'll drag this closer to the right position. Perspective. So the arm, as you remember, had 10 faces. So we need 10 faces for the hand so that they will close properly. I'm sorry, that they'll connect properly. So to do that, first I'm going to go to my polycube, and under height, I'm going to give it a value of 2. And for the depth, I'm going to give it a value of 4. So you can see that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers, and the thumb is going to be on this side. I'm also going to delete these faces. And I'm going to rotate around to make sure that I don't accidentally delete any more than just those faces where the hand connects to the wrist. I'm sorry, the hand connects to the arm at the wrist. All right, so then I'm going to go to the front view, and I'm going to get the general shape of the palm. So I'll drag it down and move it over, and I'll scale it so it fits a little bit better. And then I'm going to go to vertex mode and just select the end and scale those down so it tapers a little bit, maybe even pull them up. That's looking pretty good. And then I'm going to grab the outer edges and scale them out just a little bit. In fact, I'm going to do that again. Instead of scaling the outer edges, I'm going to, I'll just leave those there for now. So to model the finger, let's drag this over to our, I'm going to turn this one off for a second. It's a hand. So I'll add that to that. So this is one I already worked on. I want to make sure to reference that as we need to, but I'm going to drag this hand over to the new reference image, and I'll position this a little bit better. Okay. And then I restrict it so I don't accidentally grab the geometry. So I like to start with the middle finger because it's the longest. In fact, I'm going to rotate this just a little bit. I can see that it's a little off. That's a little bit better. In fact, let me delete history on this and freeze transformations. Okay. So going to the perspective view, I'm going to select face mode, right click and hold and go to face mode. And then I select these 2 faces. And then I go to the top view and I'm going to extrude them. So I go to edit mesh, extrude, and I drag that forward the length of the middle finger. In fact, I'm going to move this over a little bit so it's more in line with the middle finger. And you can see that my hand drawing is not very good. It's pretty messy. So I would say in creating your model, your model sheet, you want to have clean drawing so that this kind of messy information does not confuse you when you're modeling. So from this view, I need to break up the middle finger into joints. I forgot to restrict my reference. Okay, there we go. So to restrict, So I need to go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. I'm going to use this this edge loop as my first edge loop for my joint, and each joint is going to have three rings, 3 edge loops. So there's the first one, first knuckle. Here's the second knuckle. Here's the third knuckle. Okay, and you can see that this finger is really thick. So I'm gonna skinny it up a little bit so it's a little bit more accurate to our anatomy. In fact, what I'll do is I'll take the top and the bottom vertices and I'll scale them together. And then maybe I'll release these. So there's a bit of a taper on the finger as well. So there you go, it's a little bit thinner. And then maybe I'll grab the bottom ones and drag them up a little bit more. In fact, I think I want to grab these two by themselves and scale them so they're a little bit better tapered. I'll just push this down a little bit more. Okay. And again, I'm not looking for perfection right now. I'm just trying to get the correct geometry in so that I can then later go through and refine it. The next thing, I want to create a fingernail. So I select this top face and I go to Edit Mesh, Extrude, and I hit R, and I'm going to scale that in a little bit. And maybe I'll even select this edge by itself and scale that in a little bit too. And I'm going to push it down to create the little cuticle lip that we have on our fingernails. And I'm going to take that face that I extruded and I'm going to extrude it again for the actual nail. Edit Mesh, Extrude, and I'm going to pull it up and forward. And then I'm going to scale it in the y-axis here, this green. In fact, I think I need to scale it more in the front than I do in the back. So I'm just going to grab the front edge and scale that by itself a little bit wider than the back end. So again, this is a very blocky hand and finger, but if I hit 3 on my keyboard for smooth mode, you can see that it works pretty well as a finger. And of course we can add more geometry and we can modify, but for now that's the geometry that we need to make the finger work. So go back to 1. So with all that done, I'm gonna go to Edit, Delete by Type History, and I'm gonna duplicate this so that I can create the other finger. So I hit Control D to duplicate and I drag this off. I'm gonna go to the top view and select face mode and then select the finger, all the faces for the finger of this duplicated hand. Then I'm gonna go to Edit Mesh again and go down to Extract, and that separates the finger from the hand. So I select this new hand that I made. I'm just gonna delete that. I'm gonna go to the top view and I want to reposition the center pivot so that I can connect this very easily to the old hand geometry. So I'm going to hold down D as in dog and V as in Victor and snap to this vertex. This is going to be my index finger, but before I drag it over with this hand, now that I've extruded, I'm going to go ahead and delete these extra faces that we don't need because they're going to be replaced by the geometry of the fingers. So I delete those faces, and then I'm going to grab this index finger and hold down V as in Victor and drag it over to its position. So because I was holding down V, you can see that it snapped to that intersection of those vertices. So there's going to the top view, the fingers are not all the same length. So with this index finger scale, or the center pivot on the outside, I'm going to scale this to the finger that you see here, this sloppy index finger that I drew. So I'm going to scale it down until it's about the size of that finger. And if you're not really sure, I'm looking at my hand, and my fingernail on my index finger lines up with the just a little past the cuticle of my middle finger. So I can maybe scale a little bit more. And I don't want to get it too skinny, so I could scale it just in the y-axis. I'm sorry, just in the x-axis as well, if that's going to make it a little bit more accurate. Let's see. Yeah, so these fingers, again, this is a very sloppy drawing of a hand. I would use a much better drawing of a hand. And very often the middle finger and the index finger, I'm sorry, the ring finger and the index finger are, they can often be the same proportions. My ring finger is actually a little bit longer than my index finger. So maybe I'll make my ring finger a little bit longer. So I'm going to go back to the perspective view, and using this the same center pivot for my ring finger, I'm going to snap it to its new position. And I'm not naming. You can see that in my channel box, I'm not naming these fingers or this geometry yet. Normally it's a good idea to name all this stuff. Very soon I'm going to combine these. So when you combine them, all their names go away, and any layers that they were on, they get taken off of their layer. In fact, I just realized I didn't duplicate it. I just moved my index finger. So I'm going to undo that. And I need to duplicate this. And so I hit Control D. And now holding down, you know what I'm going to do? Instead of making the index finger or the ring finger next, I'm going to make the pinky next. So I'm going to switch the center pivot to the other side so that it can snap to the outside of the hand. So this duplicate, I'm going to hold down V as in Victor again and drag it till it snaps. That way for the ring finger, I'll be able to use, I can center it a little bit better. So go to the top view again, and I'm going to scale this. So looking at my hand again, the top of my fingernail for my pinky is right at the knuckle, my last knuckle of my ring finger. So I'm going to scale this down. And I don't want to scale it too much altogether, because then my peak is going to get too skinny. So I'll scale it, maybe scale it a little bit wider, so it doesn't get too skinny. And then I'm going to select my index finger again, and this time I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, because the center pivot, because I'm going to use the position of the other two fingers to target weld this finger into the rest of the hand. So I'm going to drag this, and for a second I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to also, well, that's actually good enough right there. I'm going to turn, yeah, you can see it's right about in the middle. It doesn't have to be perfectly accurate, but I'm also going to scale this. Oh, I did it again. I forgot to duplicate. So I'm going to undo that and Control D, and then I move it over, and I'm going to turn off my reference image so I can see better. So I've created a little bit of spacing in between. Now I'm going to scale this up, because I don't want it to be the same length. Mine is a little bit, my ring finger is a little bit longer than my index finger. That's pretty good. Maybe I'll scale my pinky down just a little bit more. Okay, so there's my hand. And I'm going to duplicate one more for the thumb. So Control D and drag this out. And we'll deal with a thumb. The thumb is a unique digit. It doesn't follow the same plane as the other fingers. But before I get too far into the thumb, I'm going to combine all these fingers into the hand mesh. So I'm going to select the index finger, select the hand, go to Mesh, Combine, and I'm going to double click on this edge of the index finger, and I'm going to drag it forward just a little bit so I can leave a little bit of separation so I can see that they're not connected. Now I'm going to target weld. I'm going to go to edge loop and then mesh tools, target weld, and I'm going to use target. So I want the hand actually to follow, to taper in a little bit to where the finger is instead of the other way around. So I hover over the edge of the hand, and then I click and drag, and it snaps to that index finger. And I skip this one because as I target weld these two edges, those ones automatically target weld. Same thing here. If I target weld, let's see, actually these two I'm going to use as center. So I'm going to go on the inside and target weld these two together, and it's going to average their positions. And then the same thing up here. All right, good. So the index finger is connected. I'm going to do the same thing with the ring finger. Oops, I need to be in object mode. And then I select the hand. I say mesh combine. I'm going to double click on this finger edge again and move it up just a little bit so I can see where it's connecting. You know what, before I connect that one, I'm going to connect the ring. I'm sorry, the pinky finger, so that I can average the target weld between the pinky finger and the ring finger and the middle finger and the ring finger. So I grab the pinky finger and the hand, say mesh combine. And like I did before, I'm just gonna, oh, you know, one thing I forgot to do, and I can do this now. The fingers, the knuckles, they actually follow a bit of an arc, and the pinky finger is a little bit lower. So I'm gonna go to the top view for a second, and I'm gonna drag these vertices. In fact, maybe I'll grab the whole pinky because I said it was in the middle of that's about in the middle. But I'm gonna drag these vertices a little bit lower, so it creates a little bit more of an arc. And I can do the same thing over here on the index finger. But maybe I'll drag the pinky even more just to emphasize that arc. Maybe I should even do it on the ring finger here, just a bit lower than the middle finger. Okay. So back to the pinky finger, I'm gonna move this up just a bit, and I'm gonna go, yeah, target weld. I'm gonna target weld this edge to the pinky edge. So mesh tools, target weld, but I'm gonna switch back to target from center to target, and now I can snap those two together and then snap these two, and okay, so now this is what I was wanting to do, where I average the target weld. So I'm gonna go back to center, and I'm gonna grab this guy and pinky, and then this guy and the pinky. Oops, I think I did the wrong one. Let me do that one again. Target weld these two. That's correct. Okay. And I'll stay with center for these target welds. And I think that should do it. Okay. Yeah, so that's the hand. Oh, you can see that I messed up my target weld on this one. And that is the middle finger. I think I messed it up with the index target weld. Anyways, that's a simple fix. I'll just use multi-cut, and I'm going to create a new edge. I select it there. I'll go on the inside, it might be easier. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I can see where I messed it up. I'm going to click on this edge, and I'll maybe just say in the middle, and then click down here, and then I'll finish up on this intersection, and I hit enter. Now I'm going to delete these edges that I accidentally snapped in the wrong position. That one and this one. Oops, I released it. Select this one and this one, and I say edit mesh. So when you want to when you need to delete vertices or edges, you want to use edit mesh, delete edge vertex. If you want to delete faces, you can just select a face and then hit delete on your keyboard. But make sure when you delete edges or vertices that you use edit mesh, delete edge vertex. Otherwise, it's going to mess up your model. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I see my rings or my edge loops are in the right positions. So that's one solid object. I'm going to go to edit, delete by type history. And the thumb, let's work on the thumb. Like I said, the thumb is a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to go to the top view and turn on my reference image again. So first I want to make sure to get this angle, because you can see the other fingers are in line with each other, but this thumb is on a different angle, on a different plane. So I'm going to rotate it more or less like that, and I'm going to reposition it in here. I'm also going to rotate it in the x-axis. Let's see what that looks like. Uh-oh, somehow my geometry got skewed. Let me undo that. Let's see. You know, let me freeze transformations before I make any changes to the thumb. So I undid, so I'm back to my starting position where it's in line with the fingers. And in this position, I'm going to freeze transformations, modify, freeze transformations. And then now when I start to rotate it, it should not give me issues where the geometry gets skewed. So I'm going to rotate it and push it in, drag it back. Now I should rotate it without any problems. Let's see if that works. No, it's still doing it. That's really strange. It shouldn't be skewing my geometry. I think that's a glitch in Maya, because I used the same exact process earlier and it didn't skew it. Let me see. If I drag forward, yeah, there's a glitch in Maya. So I'm going to stop the video here and close my session of Maya and open it up again, and hopefully that'll fix it. So, and that's actually a very useful tool. If Maya just starts acting strange, probably the best thing to do is save your work and version up your file name. So this is what I'm talking about. You can see how when I rotate it, it skews my geometry. It should just be rotating without any distortion, but it's distorting it. So I'm going to stop the video here. I'll be right back.